What up? What up? What up? We got another episode of the Art of Hustle podcast. Hannah, what's up?
Chilling, enjoying the sunshine.
I know. I love it when it's beautiful in the wintertime.
It does something like to the soul. I think we're just like extra grateful for it. You know, like when it's cold and like it's been like a little bit wet and cloudy, and then that sun comes out, and you're like, ah.
Mr. Golden Song. What's that song the kids be singing?
Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun.
Oh, you're trying to sing hard.
Please shine down on me.
You're trying to get a little record deal, huh?
I-
All right, next episode, what we got? What we talking about today?
Talking about our faith, our journey, our faith journey, what faith means to us, and how it's helped us through our life thus far.
Let's do it. First question, what you got?
Give me some background on what faith has meant to you growing up.
For me, faith's been like a relationship. It's been like a belief system, a practice, right? So I grew up in the church, didn't really understand church most of my life. And then once I kind of got out on my own and started, navigating life, that's when my faith became stronger. What about you?
I would say similar. I grew up, I did a lot of stuff in the church, like church camps. My parents helped out in like children's church. I remember like every Sunday it was like there's no option, like you're going to church. And when I transitioned from being homeschooled into school, I went into a private school for 2 years. And then my first like secular experience was in high school. So there was a very much of a time where it there for me, like the only thing I knew was church and Jesus. But I would say then going off of that, I didn't have my own personal relationship with God until, like, this sounds crazy, but honestly, until we went through everything with the boys in the NICU.
You said secular. Describe to those who don't know what secular means.
Um, like, dang, that's a great question. Secular is like of this world, so like dang, you kind of got me with this. I just use secular. I use words I don't really know the. Do you have a definition for me?
So secular, denoting attitudes, activities, or other things that have no religious or spiritual basis,
Huh.
not subject or bound to by religious rule.
Huh. Okay, so it just doesn't have religion a part of it.
Right. So of this world.
Yeah.
As Christians would say.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned that like the kids really, the boys' birth kind of connected you to God.
Yeah.
Can you explain what did you feel during that and what did you feel after?
Yes. So before, like just growing up, it was just like things that I felt I knew Jesus and I loved Jesus, but I feel like there was things that I had to do. Like there were non-negotiables whether I felt like it or not. You had to do these things. And which I was fine with. I like to follow the rules, so it was like okay, and I lived a very like I would say like easy childhood. Like there wasn't very much trauma. There was it was very stable. And even through college, I went to a Christian college and that was very stable. That was very Jesus centered. And it was not until the like the boys. So that was that. Then there was the boys and the feeling of losing my two boys, which was a very probable option. I had to go to Jesus and release control. of them, and like come to the fact that if I lost these two boys, that I was going to be okay, because I knew that God was gonna like carry me through that. And at that point I was like, whoa, this is the peace that people talk about. This is that relationship. This is that giving everything to him. And like I literally, he was the only thing that I could cling to. And I found him. I found him in that deep, 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 dark, hard time.
So going through that experience 5 years ago, how does that play out in your life now when you're not having that deep suffering?
Because I experienced him walking with me like through a valley, I now just like experience him with me throughout my day, like whether it's a great day or a hard day. I I have a relationship with him now. Like I when I'm driving and I turn on worship music, like it's and it like talks about his faithfulness or like his love or his peace. Like now I know what those feel like. So I have like a way to like attach myself to them, where before it was just, they were just kind of words that didn't really mean, they meant something to me, but I couldn't attach a feeling to them.
So how do you, like, for people who haven't experienced that deep suffering or that potential greatness of loss, how do you help them understand now those words and the love of the kingdom?
I think that everybody has everybody, no matter what your life has looked like, there there will be times where you say like everyone has trauma in their life, and it looks different. I think it's hard. This my own personal relationship, it needed a little bit, it needed me to go through a valley. And I don't necessarily know if everyone needs that, but it was something I needed. So I don't know if someone truly can say I don't think I've ever gone through a valley. It would be really hard for me to explain my relationship with Jesus.
I only asked that because I remember I tore my ACL, and I was telling you, like, that's when that was kind of my meeting Jesus moment of all my control and I had my whole life figured out based off my own abilities got me here. And when all that was taken away, I was like, all right, Jesus, this is who I am. This is my broken self. And I said to you, I was like, you have to go through hard things to understand Jesus.
I remember you saying that to me, and I got very defensive because I up until that point I hadn't gone through anything that made me like forced me to lose control. I'd always had control in my life. And I remember like we got in a heated argument about that statement.
And then, 10 years later, I thought we were in the hospital room and you said something about, you brought that conversation of, I understand what I meant when I said that. You must go through hard things to understand, honestly, the love of Jesus, and like understand that he is with us and
Mm-hmm.
with you. And, I think all the time, like, he's the breath of my lungs. He's in front of me leading the way. He's behind me protecting me. He's on my left and my right. And that's how I lead my life. And I remember just like, there's something about that peace. And it's something that's almost like frustrating because, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I be so peaceful when
Mm-hmm.
everything around me feels so like chaotic? And when I'm in that space, that's when I like really sit in that space of
Mm-hmm.
spirituality, which is like the most comfortable thing that I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah.
let's talk about college and your decision to go to a Christian university.
Hmm.
What led you to that experience? What led you to go in there?
Um, I I would say right off the bat, my parents desired for me to go to a Christian university. My older brother, who was 1 year older than me, had the year before went to Portland State on a football scholarship, and they he just had like some he had like a couple like experiences that were very challenging for him.
Did their one for you to go to a Christian school change after dropping from the Portland State,
Um,
to your best knowledge?
I know I can't say yes or no on that. I
Gotcha.
can't really. I all I know is that I was their baby girl. They raised me in a very Christian household, and their desire for me would be to go to a Christian university. I think it being me being a girl, they protected me. They tried to protect me a little bit more than my older brother. So when it got time to start looking at colleges, um, it was I was playing volleyball, so it was kind of like what I was I was decent at volleyball. I wasn't gonna go D1, um, but I was gonna be able to play somewhere if I wanted to. I was getting looked at some smaller colleges, and as those colleges kind of started coming to me, I was just more drawn to the coaches that asked me about my faith and let me know that their program was faith based. I was like, oh, I like that, like it felt safe to me, I think, and it felt good and it felt right. So it came down to there was 3 different schools that I was going to play volleyball at, and um,
Were they all Christian universities?
hmm yeah, and I as the time got closer, I realized that I didn't want to go as far away from home as I thought I wanted to. So I ended up picking the school that was closest to my home. And I also, as like it got closer, I told my dad, like, I don't think I want to play volleyball. I'm burnt out. I'm done with volleyball. I kind of want to just like go experience college without volleyball. And he was like, 1 year, give it 1 year. And he said, you don't, after that, I won't, he's like, I won't ask you anymore. You can make your decision and like you can go on from there. But he's like, just give me 1 year. They'd like they'd invested a lot in like club sports and everything. So I understand him saying that. And I do think that he probably knew more. He had a better perspective of it than I did. And so I gave him 1 year, and like college volleyball, hands down one of the best experiences of my life at Northwest University. Like it was great.
You know what's crazy? My mom said the same thing. She said
Really?
1 year. Both my parents said that 1 year.
Why?
And like, I don't know why. They, like
Yeah.
essentially hearing the same similar experience, but I definitely wanted to quit after my first year.
Really?
Yeah, I think like 6 months into my college experience, I like applied to transfer. I was like, I'm going to California. It's
I didn't
cold,
know
wet,
that.
rainy. Oh yeah, I got accepted in kind of like a academic scholarship to go to Azusa Pacific my freshman year. I was going to go down there, be with my buddy Tyler Jameson, and like I felt like he was like in the warm weather playing football, like having a bunch of fun. I'm up here like hating life, just like it's cold, wet, rainy.
That is doing an outdoor sport. I didn't think about that. Doing an outdoor sport, the weather
Yeah, it's a major factor.
plays a big role.
You get that 5 p.m. practice, it's dark out, cold. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't blame you.
But I'm glad I stick with it
Yeah,
because look where we're at now. So,
I know. I want to change it. Do you have a point where you in your life where you feel like you had to cling to Jesus and nothing else?
I think I've had a couple points of throughout my football career. Um, you know, I think about like small, funny ones of like, oh God, I want a football scholarship. Like, I just want to play football, and that kind of like selfish part of it.
Yeah.
And then it became like, oh God, I just want to like play. and then they kind of like became bigger. But the biggest one was tearing my ACL. That was obviously a huge point in my life of I was going right, and all of a sudden like something happens, I like shift gears and like go left. So that was huge, and that kind of started. It kind of opened a door towards like a fully committed relationship with Jesus. And I remember, I tore my ACL. 6 months later, I'm going to Chicago, and I'm moving from kind of graduated college, leaving Portland in November, and moving to Chicago. And there's a few themes in here of like cold, dark weather. Like
Mm-hmm.
that for me does a lot of like um, a lot of clinging to Jesus. So imagine like, I went through this traumatic injury, and the end of 2015, I moved into the Midwest. Um, I knew nobody, and it's like this team has been together for 4 months now. I'm the new guy. I'm not really a rookie. I'm a rookie, but I'm not really a rookie. Like I haven't done any training camp. Like I'm just there, kind of rehabbing, just like hanging around, kind of like a little brother kind of a thing. Like in a lot of weird ways. And I remember it was Christmas Day, and up to this point, I've never played football on Christmas because high school, college, it was done. I remember we could like had to practice on Christmas, had to go to meetings, had to lift weights, all these things, and like then we could go home. But everybody's has families or whatnot, and they have all these groups, and it was just me, myself, and I. Got there 3, 4 weeks ago. I remember going to the hotel room. Mind you, it's wintertime Chicago, so it's like 10 degrees outside. And I remember just going into my hotel room just being so sad. I was like, Jesus, why am I sitting here by myself right now? When, I feel like I'm still young enough to like understand like a young Christmas, and just remember the isolation. And in that isolation, I really had to find Jesus, because that's when I like knew that I could not sit in that circumstance for myself, that I had to like talk. I remember like I was journaling a lot. I was like watching movies and just like really thinking about how I felt. Like I didn't just sit there and like just feel the feels. I like did something with that. And so a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, a lot of journaling, and just like sitting in that noise. And so that kind of was like the first initial like I'll say 6 months of really like getting to know Jesus.
Mm, I like that. How do you feel like faith? What role has faith played in you as a businessman?
It keeps me going because when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. And so like it just allowed me to understand this is a part of the process. This is a part of the journey. My faith helps me understand that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like I'm supposed to have some things figured out, but not everything. So the things I don't know or don't have figured out, I have the faith in the process and my belief system that I will get there by the right people coming into my life, by me taking the right risk of knowledge and asking the right question. So, it really was about kind of failing to that point, and then honestly kind of going to the point. I remember like 2 years in, when I was kind of really frustrated with business and where I was at, where my role was, kind of support around a lot of our lifestyle, my lack of involvement at home. I was like, God, I know this is not what you want from me. I know this wasn't how you designed, why you brought me here. Use me. And it really started with like praying every day, which I was always doing, but like it changed my prayer of like, all right, God, this morning, use me in my gym to help people. And then I come home, use me to like be a great husband, great father. And so once I like let God use me, then I started seeing like the growth that I wanted with the right people coming into my life to be on the team, be in the business.
That's good.
What about you? How's faith helped you as a businesswoman?
I think over everything, it gives me this like arc of peace in like there's been like a lot of fires that we've had to put out, and a lot of unknowns and a lot of things that we don't know if we're doing it the right way or not. And it's like without Jesus, without that peace, you just like can spiral so quickly. And I've had days where I've been spiraling and I've like come to and I'm like, you're about to lose me. Like I can't get out of my head. Like there's too much stress. There's too much pressure, like so much pressure. And you always point me back to like to God and to pray. And it's crazy how like when you shift that perspective in your mindset, it like just you can like legit take a deep breath. When I like was like a deep breath's impossible. I can't
Right.
calm my heart rate down. Um, so it just is. It's the peace and the unknown, and like with business, there's been a lot of unknowns, and I probably wouldn't. I don't think I would have made it without that whole lot of Jesus.
Right. Let's talk about control and faith and honestly money.
Oh,
Like all the hypocrisy with all of that, of how we try to control things with money and create situations with money to control things, which ultimately removes the faith. How has all that played a part in your life?
it's a very deep question. I have always been like, I was raised in a household that was very financially stable. I then got passed off to you. Like, my dad passed me to you. We were in the NFL. We were very financially stable. And moving to Bend and starting our own business these last 5 years through COVID has come with a lot of financial instability. And it's rocked me to my core a little bit because I realized that it was like I could control a lot of things with money and like, but in a sense, a way of false control. Like, for example, with the health of our boys, like money wasn't like what wasn't going to make them live or not have them live. Like it was this, there's this fake sense of control with money. And so when money then was very limited, I was like, well, shoot, what? Like, I'm losing control. Like we're spiraling out of control. And it like, I like had to daily remind myself that money was not what my identity was in. Like, my identity was being a daughter of Christ. And like that, I still daily, if I wake up and I'm stressing about finances or this or that, it's like, that's not the question. Like you shouldn't wake up and be like, do we have enough money in the bank account? Which is, it's important. It's important to have enough money in the bank account, but to wake up in state, the first thing state, like I'm a child of the Most High King. And that is what my identity is in. And besides that, I have no control over today or over like what can happen. Like my God has control. And I need to like listen to him and pray and be in the word in order to know like where he wants me today and what path he wants me on.
As far as
I'm gonna flip that question back on you now.
I've had, yeah, that was a good answer. I think that's a very important piece for people to understand. Is like, I am a child in the Most High Kingdom, and the path to get there for everybody looks different. I think that's important to note in a world of comparison and like social media, internet. Like everyone's story looks so different that we're just wasting time. Like I really don't care about other people's stories, like in the sense of like the money part of it, right? And like the comparison, like the NFL showed me there's gonna be people with a lot more money than others, comparative to like there's a lot of people in this world who don't have like anything. So it's like, why do we waste so much time focused on that and like looking at what people have in the materialistic blah blah blah. But for me, like I grew up like middle class, like I don't know. Like we had went on a couple of vacations a year, usually road tripping in California. So money for like me wasn't a huge thing. We didn't go to Hawaii or Mexico growing up. I thought that was like for the rich people. Like, you know. And so I understood that we didn't have excess, but we had enough in the family. There's always love in our home. So that for me was very important because that showed me that like money did not indicate love and like cherish and like nourishment. Like those are things that you choose, and that money you can like work for to get. And so for me, it was very interesting growing up and then going to college, getting a scholarship, and turning into having the focus of wanting to play in the NFL because I'm like, oh, I have this skill set that at this level is valued very high. And when I say very high, like, you know, a number that I never thought I'd see in the sense of like rookie contracts, 1 point something $1 million. And then you get into the NFL, you understand like, all right, you don't get a check for $1.5 million when you first sign. You got to go earn that. And there's taxes, the whole tax stuff. But when it comes to like the emotional, spiritual side for me, like I had a very strong confliction like throughout my NFL career of like thinking that money was going to bring happiness. Like you hear money doesn't bring happiness and da da da. Yeah, money's great and you can do a lot of things with it. You can travel, you can buy stuff. Most of the time it's super unnecessary, but it can give you, it's a tool for things in life. Now, what I wasn't expecting was like the drop off of, you know, your bank account looking like this, but your emotions are like this. And like in between that gray area is a lot of depression, anxiety, insecurity, all these things that don't make any sense. Like I'm supposed to have fun, like love life because there's some commas in the bank, but I feel like shit. Like I feel like I don't belong here. I feel like
You're saying this is how you felt in the NFL?
yeah, like I
Okay.
feel like I'm not happy. Like I'm supposed to be happy. Like people say I should be happy because I like have all this money, and it's not even like a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not. There's a lot. More, like I said, a lot more people, a lot more money than what I was able to do. But that was my point. I was like, oh, okay, this money thing is not going to fulfill me. This money thing is not going to give me the value to the worth of my name in the kingdom. Like, so that's led me on this journey now of like understanding who I am and what I believe, and that the happiest that I am when I am serving God's will for my life and constantly working towards that. Like, that's what makes me happy. And so that's what I keep in my mind every single day when I wake up is how do I serve the kingdom and how do I bring one person every day that love and that experience of the kingdom to hopefully bring them to the kingdom.
That's good.
I'm on a mission for God, for real.
I was gonna ask you, like, now being like 5 years out of NFL into being a business owner and a dad, what do you feel like is your mission?
100% serve the kingdom of God, without a doubt. I there's been three things I've been absolutely sure about my life. The first was knowing I was going to marry you the first time I saw you. The second was I want to be a dad. And the third is I'm going to bring 1 million people closer to the kingdom of Christ. Like there's no part of me, my whole body, spirit, being, aura, all my zodiac signs that I want to do that. Like I want to show people the peace, the love, the acceptance, the joy, the forever, the eternal. Like going sober, I've been a part of these groups now. People having discussions and kind of these men's group. As people are looking to rebuild community since COVID, and these are great people, but it's all missing Jesus. Everyone's talking about the same thing. How do I become happier, less anxious, less depressed, more fulfilled, more abundance, joy, and they've left the drugs and alcohol and addiction, and they're going towards money. And at some point, they realize that money's not going to be able to do that, and then it's going to be Jesus. So for me, it's like, all right, I've went through all that. I've experienced that at a very high level at 31 years old and been exposed to a lot of different things with that money has like presented. And it's like, yeah, but Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And like, period. So
Yeah.
like, how can I do that on a high level?
Yeah. It always comes back to Jesus.
It really does. And it's so kind of cliche for me because I grew up going to church, but I didn't understand church. I didn't understand religion. I can barely read the Bible sometimes without understanding what it actually means and rereading it 1,000 times. But, I'm able to now to like pull out different sections and really understand it. Like, I've read the Bible like all my life growing up until the last probably like 6 months to a year. Like, I can really like internalize what the words mean and regurgitate and then apply it to my life.
I have to tell a cute story about you. So Cornelius was going to talk in front of high schoolers about Jesus and about kind of his testimony. And he like right before he goes up, he like comes over to me. He goes, babe, how do I? He goes, how do
Why
I?
are you exposing me right now?
Because it's cute. He goes, how do I say this word? How do I say this? And I like look down and like on his like little paper, it's First Chronicles. And he goes, do I say one Chronicle? And like you could, like, people know what you're talking about, but you usually say First Chronicles. And he's like, okay, thanks. And I just thought it was like so amazing that you don't know everything. Like, you don't have all the answers. You don't know everything. Like, that you're like willing to get up in front of people and tell them how the Lord has like grabbed your heart and how you are like on fire for him and like want to bring more people to him and like use your testimony and the challenges that you've gone through. And it just really like, it was just kind of this thing of like God, like kind of telling me like, I can use anyone at any point to do the work, to do my work. Like, and he's using you right now.
Yeah.
He's been using you. You are like, you're a vessel, and I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that. I'm fortunate to have a lot of great people in my life help my spirit. Like, I got a spiritual mentor by the grace of God probably 5 months ago. And I was being vulnerable with the client, just talking about like my big scary dream of changing the world. And she's somebody I really admire and has had a lot of great success in the world and makes a huge impact in the legal world. And she was like, oh, you have to talk to my friend. Like, you have to meet with him. You have to share your heart and he will help you. And like, I've heard that for 30 years and like, I'm like, yeah, okay, well, that's fine. Yeah, I know people have people who want to be affiliated with me or toss me or whatever. But this one was different. And this guy has really helped accelerate me into the spiritual world of like announcing the kingdom and boldly announcing the kingdom and boldly changing other people's lives and boldly asking for God to help me change my life so that I can change other people's lives. And we've had a few Zoom meetings. He's in Portland and we're obviously in Bend, and just somebody who's had so much success and had to overcome so much and to give it all back to the kingdom is something that was very impressive, and something that, like, who has prayed with me, who has like heard me talk about stories, who has helped me figure my big scary dream and how to like reasonably get there, has meant a lot. And so, I don't. This is my experience. I've got here from my, walking in my shoes, but a lot of people have helped shape me along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very important to note as people are, looking for answers, or trying to figure out their life pathways, or trying to figure out their anxiety, trying to figure out how to have joy, how to be a parent, how to be in their careers. Like, the vulnerability to Jesus and the vulnerability of other people will help bridge that gap.
That's very true.
What's one spiritual goal that you have for yourself this year?
I want to daily be in the Word and daily talk to God, like multiple times, talk to Him, like no matter what my day looks like Him be the first thing that I think about, that I first person thing that I like cling to when I'm stressed, when I'm too nose to nose with things, like just really like surrender myself and my anxieties and my stresses to Him daily. I'm still working on that. What would you say is what your spiritual goal?
Is to reach more people. But in order to do that, I have to like believe in myself. So like keep gaining my spiritual confidence. Not saying 1 Chronicles in front of high school kids. So I don't know how I improve on that, but honestly just take chances and risk and place myself in those uncomfortable situations. Like, I was so uncomfortable about talking in front of all these kids and just so nervous, but like, I pray for God to be with me and, let Him use me again in that room, and just how happy and joyful that made me, because it wasn't about bragging about my experience, but about declaring what God has done with my life. What would you say is your favorite scripture or Bible story?
I would say always like growing up when I'd have like nightmares or whatnot, I would always say I think it's Jeremiah 29:11. I think it goes, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." And that like all through college, NFL, even like into motherhood, when I'm really just kind of feel lost or alone, I'll just repeat that to myself over and over. And it helps my mind and like brings me this like unexplainable peace. What about you?
Mine is 1 Chronicles 4. And it talks about Jabez. There's a book called Prayer of Jabez that has forever changed my life, so highly would recommend everyone reading that. But he says, "Oh, that you would have blessed me indeed and enlarged my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain." And I love the book that I read because it takes every line of that and it showed me how to apply it for my life. How it starts with like blessing me indeed, and how it's not selfish to pray for yourself before you pray for others, which I've always had backwards. So boldly caring for myself, and then boldly asking for God to enlarge my territory. And that's kind of what I've seen happen in like the first 2 weeks of this year, 3 weeks of this year. Like, when we ask big and boldly with the right reasons, like God will grant it to us, and like that your hand will be with me, and as more is given, is done with God, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain, to keep all that territory and all that kingdomness safe from all destructive things that may come try to attack, because it's like for God's territory. So that's what I'm sitting in right now for my life.
That's beautiful. One Chronicle.
We should name this episode 1 Chronicles. 1 Chronicles 4.
I love you.
All right, y'all. We out.
Peace.